Shalom and welcome to the Mayor TV Parsha Talks. We welcome Rav Menachem Weinberg into our studio. Rav Menachem, shalom.
Shalom.
This Shabbat we're going to be reading Parshat Emor, the sanctification of the Kohanim and their special laws, mitzvot and restraints. And thereafter the Torah moves on to the sanctity of the holidays, the Moadim, the special appointed times. It starts with Shabbat and goes on to Passover, the Shavuot or the Omer, and then Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. A very unique section about the special days of the Jewish people, Rav Menachem.
Sure, the holidays, they're essentially three major regalim, we call them, foot festivals, if you want. Everybody comes up to Yerushalayim to see and experience God in the temple, and of course commemorating the three amazing historical events of the Jews, that founding the Jewish people: Pesach, Yetziat Mitzrayim, the Jews coming out of Egypt, and Shavuot. Although it doesn't say explicitly in the Torah, it works out to be after 49 days the Jews left Egypt, they received the Torah in Har Sinai, and Sukkot, of course, commemorating the booths, the huts where the Jewish people dwelled in the desert when they came out of Egypt.
So here we have, on the one hand, the opening section is talking about Shabbat, which is divinely given, not depending upon any participation of the Jewish people. The seventh day comes whether we like it or not. Right. But as our sages taught us, these three appointed times, the three holidays, they're dependent upon the court, the high court of the Jewish people, sanctifying the new month. Right. Therefore, the appearance, if it's Rosh Hashanah on the first day of the month, if it's Sukkot, the 15th day, and Passover.
We set the calendar, and I can't help thinking this time of year, we're just coming on the heels of Yom Ha'atzmaut, and there's
the Independence Day of the State of Israel.
Absolutely, if you will, a new holiday, perhaps some sort of rabbinic holiday. There's a beautiful Sfat Emet, the second Rebbe of the Ger Hasidim, the grandson of the Chidushei Harim. He says a beautiful idea that there's three biblical holidays, as we just mentioned, but there's also three rabbinical holidays that the rabbis instituted in parallel to the ones that come from the Torah. So in parallel to Sukkot, where we celebrate that all the nations come to Jerusalem and they appreciate the God of Israel, so we have the holiday of Hanukkah, where we have the Hellenists who perhaps we had to deal with how much can we take from the culture of the Greek culture and the blend of the outside world with the Jewish, the candle of the Jews, the Torah. And Purim we have parallel to Shavuot. We received the Torah the first time at Har Sinai.
By force, by coercion of God.
That's right. So the Gemara says the second time, it doesn't matter that we were coerced the first time, because the second time we took it upon ourselves out of love. At the Purim story, we were so enamored and so thankful to Hashem that He saved us, so that we received the Torah. It says in the Megillat Esther, Kimu v'kiblu ha'Yehudim alehem v'al that we once again received the Torah. The third holiday, where biblically we have a holiday celebrating the redemption, the Passover, coming out of Egypt. The Sfat Emet says you're living 150 years ago approximately, that in the future there's going to be another rabbinic holiday to celebrate the future redemption. Perhaps we merit to live in these times where we celebrate Yom Ha'atzmaut, celebrating the independence of the Jewish state for the first time after 2,000 years. Perhaps that's the third rabbinic holiday in parallel to the holidays of the biblically mandated.
And of course, the great giving of thanks to the Almighty for the actual pronunciation, the actual declaration of the state. Our great Rabbi Tzhuda Kook would explain that when David Ben Gurion and Rabbi Maimon were in that museum that Friday afternoon, the 5th of VR,
sure,
they knew that the several Arab states with millions and millions of enemies around us, they were threatening that if we would indeed declare the state of Israel, they would immediately attack us. And David Ben Gurion knew this. Yet the courage, the spirit of courage that our sages teach us, and the ability or willingness to save the Jewish people, like we learn about King David, that itself is a miracle. So the actual declaration itself, amidst the great threat of the Arabs coming down on us, to declare that we're going to be a state, that itself was a miracle. And for that we're being thankful to God the Almighty.
It's a miracle that we had we were brave enough, the courage to announce we're making a state.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the situation was indeed that we're in great danger.
Right. Of course, we also celebrate that we were saved. There was, the War of Independence, but in the end, we were victorious, and because
with the help of God, of course.
With the help of God, and Jews, over 1 million Jews came within the first year to the founding state of Israel, these Jews who had nowhere else to go after the Holocaust. The boats were being turned away from every other country, and so when we celebrate that, we don't celebrate only the pronouncement, but ultimately the creation of the state, which was instrumental in saving so many lives. The Khatam Sofer says, just going back for a minute to what we're talking about, biblically mandated versus rabbinically mandated, he has a beautiful idea where he says even Hanukkah and Purim, which we all know the rabbis instituted, doesn't say anything about Hanukkah and Purim in the Torah. He says really they are also biblically mandated. The Torah tells us that you must celebrate when the Jewish people have a salvation, when they're saved. Just like when they came out of Egypt, the Gemara in Megillah says we had to sing and say Hallel because we were saved from slavery to freedom. We were liberated. So Kal Vachomer,
even more so, the Gemara says.
Even more so when you're saved from death, certain death, to be saved and be alive. And so this might apply also to Yom Ha'atzmaut, if there's so many Jews around the world that were being killed and were in danger. So perhaps even Yom Ha'atzmaut might have some element of being biblically mandated, that you must mark the day in some way, just like Hanukkah and Purim. He says, he doesn't claim that lighting the Chanukiah, lighting the menorah is a Torah mitzvah, nor is reading the Megillah a Torah mitzvah. Of course, the Megillah was written way after the Torah, so how could that be biblically mandated? He said anything you do to mark the salvation, to mark the great miracle that Hashem did for the Jewish people, that is enough to fulfill your biblical obligation. Whether you make a barbecue on Yom Ha'atzmaut, or whether you gather together with family, whether you watch Chidon HaTanakh, the Bible quiz, anything that you do to mark the day, even wearing a white shirt, that's enough to signify that you recognize the great miracle that God did to you. And then it was up to the rabbis in each generation how to define for us what's the particular mitzvah of the day. In the time of Hanukkah, they established we must light the candles. In the Megillah, you must send mishloach manot, gifts to the other. In our day, we've established a holiday. The rabbis say you should mark it, some with saying the Hallel, with a bracha, without a bracha. It hasn't quite gelled yet into exactly what the mitzvah of the day is, but to mark the day and to recognize and give thanks to Hashem for the historic success of establishing the state of Israel after 2,000 years might even be derived from the Torah.
So we're privileged to be living in this generation, 67 years to the state of Israel, and the prayer service at Machon Meir, uplifting both at night and during the day.
It was beautiful.
Hundreds and hundreds of people and visitors and neighbors came to join, to sing together and praise the Almighty, that Am Yisrael Chai, the nation of Israel is alive again. And we're going forward all the time. How the state of Israel is growing and developing all over the country. Infrastructure, technology, army, and all these matters. And Torah, of course. Yeshivot all over the country, thank God.
It makes you think, of course, in terms of redemption, in terms of the prophecy of the prophets for the end of days. We're just missing Mashiach. But I just heard something very beautiful. The Talmud says, based on the Sifra, that the Melech HaMashiach, the King Messiah, will come, and he has 3 jobs that he has to do. What are the 3 things that he has to do when he comes, when the Jewish people come into the land of Israel, and the King Messiah? His first job is to destroy the Amalek, and then what's the other one?
We have the appointing of the king, destroying Amalek, and the building of the Beit HaMikdash.
And rebuilding the Beit HaMikdash. So, we're here in Israel, we feel some people even say that it's like the 10 days of repentance. You have 10 days between Yom HaShoah, Remembrance Day for the Holocaust, and Yom HaAtzmaut. And it's very meaningful. Of course, we have Yom HaZikaron in the middle, where we remember the fallen soldiers and victims of terror attacks. It's very emotionally moving period, just like the 10 days of repentance. Of course, afterwards we celebrate with the holiday of Yom HaTzmaut. But if you think about it, perhaps commemorating the Holocaust, soldiers in the IDF, Israel Defense Forces, after so many years, is in some way eradicating Amalek, getting rid of evil, and our vanquishing evil, are able to overcome even the worst enemy that we have, Hitler and all of his helpers. And then, of course, we have establishing the State of Israel is some measure of malchut, of kingship, of even though we don't have a king per se, but anybody that the community, the Jewish people as a whole, appoint, whether by popular vote or appointment representing the Jewish people, has some laws, according to Rav Kook and many others agreed with him, that in some way he's a king. And the third one, establishing the temple. So we haven't reached the foundation stone yet, but in just another few days we're going to be celebrating Yom Yerushalayim, the day which the State of Israel was able to conquer the area where the Kotel and the Har HaBayit, the Temple Mount, and
re-liberate the areas that belong to the Jewish people.
Yeah, establish one stage closer to rebuilding the temple. So we're getting closer to the things that Mashiach is supposed to do.
We're so virtuous to be living in this time, and of course we wish to our great viewers that are still abroad, living outside the land, come and join us. Be partners in the building of a new nation and in its rebirth after 2,000 years. Shalom, and thank you, Rav Menachem.
For those of you still celebrating Chag Sameach, for the future coming Yom Yerushalayim, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.